So, what I want to do is really kind of zoom out a little bit and take a look at what the actual cycle really is and how divine it is, how intricate it is, because it all plays a part in our mind, body, and spirit. Truly, because there's two different physiological cycles that are happening, and then tons of biological responses that our body's having due to those things. Hey, so when we talk about our cycle, our menstrual cycle, what we're actually referring to is a period of time, okay, that starts from the beginning of when you start bleeding all the way to when you stop bleeding, to when you ovulate, to all the way until the start of your next period. Okay, so that time span between the first day of one period and then all the way to the first day of the next period is actually scientifically what is considered your menstrual cycle. All right. And so again, a lot of times we have we have this association that when we talk about our menstrual cycle, that we're talking about just that period of time when we're bleeding. And that time is very important. However, it's a part of a bigger whole, and the more that we can start to be educated on that whole entire cycle and where our period falls into that entire cycle, that overall cycle, and how other parts of our bodies and our lifestyles affect that overall cycle, we can begin to work with and manage the specific time in the cycle when we're actually menstruating or when we have our period. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. And so again, the period is between the time you start bleeding until the next time you start bleeding, okay? And what happens, the way that our period, the menstruation period is dictated, is that hormone signals are sent back and forth between our brain and our ovaries, okay? So that is what causes the sacs in the ovaries. It causes changes to those. So our ovaries is where our eggs are and the follicles, and they're also they're a part of the uterus. So that first part of the cycle is preparing an egg to be released from the ovary and building the uterine lining. Okay, so kind of break it down a little bit more. When we does everyone I'm not going to assume that everyone knows why we bleed every month, so I'm going to give a brief breakdown of that. So what happens is every single month, okay, during that cycle, when you start your period and then to the next day you start your period, your body is going through a process where it is normally, healthily planning to conceive. Okay, and so that is evidenced by our bleeding, our menstrual cycle. So what happens is our ovaries release an egg every month, and depending on if that egg is fertilized or not fertilized, depends, kind of the different signals again go back and forth between the ovaries and the brain and tell our body what to do next. So okay, now that we've released the egg, do we have information and feedback that it's been fertilized? Yes. Okay, that starts a whole different biological process when you're pregnant. If it's not fertilized, what happens is the egg starts to the egg doesn't implant in the lining of the uterus, which starts to kind of store up blood in case there is a baby or a fetus formed. I heard a thing that bleeding monthly is not the regular way a woman should bleed. I don't know where you heard that. I don't agree with that. We're absolutely supposed to bleed. It's a biological function of the body, and it allows us to it actually is a big signal of health to know that we are bleeding on a somewhat consistent basis. It's a way for our body to naturally detoxify itself. And it's also a way that we are able to conceive. And so what happens is if we don't conceive, the uterine lining that was saved up to provide nutrients to the baby is released. And if there's an implantation, it's not released. And so that uterine lining starts to build up, and it then becomes the placenta after the baby is born, which continues to nourish the baby through 9 months, which is pretty amazing. So I want to talk about the different phases in the cycle, okay? Because menstruation is, again, that the period of time where you're actually bleeding, okay? And then the period is, and that is the shedding of the uterus, the uterine lining, which we just talked about. And then the follicular phase, it's the time between when you go, so there's two phases basically, okay? There's the follicular phase, and then there's the proliferative phase. And this is basically when you have your period and then immediately after you have your period. So the follicular phase starts when you have your period. It's the first day of the period all the way until when you ovulate. The estrogen rises and the egg prepares to be released. In the proliferative phase, the uterine lining builds back up again. Okay, so it's kind of a cycle of building up and then shedding, building up and then shedding. Okay, there's a luteal phase that is it's between ovulation and the start of menstruation. So the follicular phase is basically up until you ovulate, and then after you ovulate, the period of time between then and then when you get your next cycle is the luteal phase. What you said are facts. I was taught, but this new thing is going around now. Yeah, there's a lot of new things going around now, and you know, I'll take a moment to just address that. So someone on Instagram is mentioning that they have kind of gotten information from different sources that the menstrual cycle is not normal and it's not something that we should experience. And it's unfortunate that that type of misinformation is being spread. And I would be very curious to know if that was being spread, who that was being spread by. And I think that it's important to really honor ourselves and our bodies and pay attention to what they do. And because there's a reason for the things that they do. And you know, our menstrual cycle is actually a very divine part of our existence, a divine part of our being. Every single person who is on this planet came from a womb, and it came from a womb of someone who menstruated. They had to, because they had to be able to produce the hormones that would be able to grow a fetus, not on a monthly basis. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And so I know that a lot of times, sometimes, you know, people will feel like, I don't want to get a period every month. Sometimes I know people take, you know, birth control or take other things to kind of make their period go away. And the thing with that, unfortunately, is that there's usually something to deal with on the back end when you deal with that. When you start trying to manipulate your hormones, and that's a whole other topic of conversation, because a lot of times birth control is prescribed as something to regulate your cycle, and it wreaks havoc on the body. Okay. In my business, I've been in business for 4 years. I've been helping women heal their wombs for 4 years. And one of the common threads that I find with a lot of women who are on a womb healing journey is that they were on birth control, hormonal birth control, for a very long period of time. And now that they have kind of gone in and interceded that natural biological process, they have a lot of issues. They deal with fibroids. They deal with a number of different things. I saw that, I believe it was from someone who was strictly vegan. Yeah, that I'm not gonna I'm not gonna comment on that. I think that it's interesting how, people create their own realities in terms of, what's right and what's wrong, and trying to kind of make rules around, make very rigid rules around what people should eat and shouldn't eat, and should have a period and shouldn't have a period, and, should be this way and not that way. Like, I honestly don't subscribe to any of that. And that's why I truly don't really share a lot of my personal beliefs on social media, because I'm just, when it comes to things of this nature, like things of this world, I don't really share my beliefs a lot, because I think it's arrogant. I think it's arrogant for me to feel that just because I see things a certain way, or I perceive my life in a certain way, that that's what normal is and that's what normal should be. My work is really dedicated to people who are seeking transformation and are seeking change with their wombs, and they're seeking an alternate way to do that. And really, that's it. And so anything beyond that, as far as, what people, they create new theories about things, and not just, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that people don't have a lot of experience. I think people don't have a lot of background knowledge and information. And then they want to kind of make these generalized rules for other people. And I think it's really just rooted in their own fear and insecurity. That's what I think. And not even just specifically about that particular situation, but just in general, with life itself. I've been strictly vegan and have friends who are raw vegan and still have regular cycles. Yes, God. Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, your cycle is indicative of your health. It's indicative of your fertility. And it's indicative of a lot of other factors. So this is what I wanted to talk about. So I won't go too much into the nerdy science stuff about, like, the different parts of the cycles. I do have an Instagram post about that, that kind of goes over that. But all that to basically say that it's all basically run by our hormones, okay? And so, and all of our bodily functions are run by hormones, okay? And our womb is no exception to that. So it's very important for us to be mindful about taking a holistic approach to having optimal womb health. So that is not just about birth control, but about eating, about your diet, about what you're consuming in terms of mentally. What types of shows are you watching on television? People think that, that has nothing to do with it. That's completely ridiculous. That anyone would suggest that being mindful of what you consume, not just food wise, or not just products that you use, is important to make sure that you're healthy, but making sure that you are being active, making sure that you're exercising, utilizing the other systems in your body, your respiratory system, your muscles, your fat. Fat has been demonized, all over the place. Like, I'm fat and this and that, but fat is actually an organ, and fat has a very vital purpose in keeping us alive. It transfers electricity throughout our body, and it's absolutely amazing. So it's important, I think, to look beyond just what people have to offer on the surface, and really start to understand that our body is a mechanism that works in order, in divine order. And that's why one of our affirmations is divine order is now established in our mind, body, and affairs. We want to be aware of ourselves and be mindful of giving our bodies and giving our hormones the best optimal condition to be to allow it to be in its most healthy, natural state. And honestly, and this is my belief, and I'll preface it by saying that, and I never want to again make this a standard and make this someone that other people should or have to believe. I don't need to do that. I can just share what my belief is in regards to womb health and really any physical health. Yes, God Wellness, one of our philosophies is that there's a physical side to life and there's an energetic side to life. And not to imply that there's only two sides to life, but there's a strong correlation between the physical and the energetic body. And the saying, as above, so below, kind of sums up, the belief that what we have internally, energetically, and emotionally inside of us reflects itself in our bodies, especially in our wombs, especially with folks who have wombs, because that is our sacral chakra, and it holds a lot of emotions, it holds a lot of trauma. And when those traumas and emotions are suppressed and they're not allowed to be released, they can manifest into other things for us. And there is actually, I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm not sure if I'm sure people have heard of Louise Hay, but she has a list where she's kind of breaking down different ailments or different diagnoses by the energetic or emotional root. Let me pull this up. So she has, it's called The Emotional Cause of Diseases. Okay, and give me a second. I'm switching over. Oh, this is awesome. I found something where she actually has, yes, God. She has the emotional cause of the disease and then the affirmation, yes, God, that you can use to start to address that subconscious blockage. So, for example, I'm going to just pull up fibroids. Yes, we absolutely sell herbs. So, and of course, I talked about all the other things that affect your womb cycle. And I didn't mention, but will mention now, vaginal steaming, which is what Yes God Wellness is really all about. It's about utilizing an ancient healing technique to help to regulate our womb cycles and help to release those emotional things that are stored and suppressed in our wombs that then manifest into other ailments. Yes, God. Exactly. Yes, God. So I'm just going to look up fibroids because, let's see. Wow. Okay, so fibroids emotionally. So I'm sorry, to answer your question, you did your first theme last week? Yes, God. To answer your question, yes, we sell herbs, and yes, I have 8 different blends, and they have been formulated based on the different intentions that folks have for steaming. So you can definitely, I'll run them briefly down now, but I have a lot of information about them on yesgodwellness.com as well. And so the Abundance Blend is for fertility and regulating the cycle specifically. The Clarity Blend is for mental wellness. The Delicacy Blend is specifically for postpartum recovery and care. The Purify Blend is specifically for Candida, yeast, and BV. The Transform Blend is for fibroids and then dealing with endometriosis and PCOS. The Refresh Blend is kind of also known as the Menopause Blend. It helps with dryness, it helps with libido, It helps with balancing those hormones that start to, because that's a whole other hormonal cycle process that happens once we move out of menstruation age to perimenopause and then menopause. And then we have a Victorious blend that is very much focused on the emotional and the energetic part of releasing from the womb and allowing those suppressed traumas and suppressed resentments and suppressed emotions to be released so they can be lovingly dealt with. And then we have an Intimacy blend, which promotes, again, that energetic and emotional energy of self-love. You love your blends. Yes, God, I'm so glad you love them. So fibroids emotionally, according to Louise Hay, is indicates that it's nursing a hurt from a partner and or a blow to the feminine ego. Wow. So a big part of this work is surrender. It's honesty. It's keeping it real with yourself. It's allowing yourself to be vulnerable. It's reflection. It's willingness to accept accountability. It's willingness to go inside to the place that a lot of us have been running from for a really long time. So the affirmation for fibroids is, I release the pattern in me that attracted this experience. I create only good in my life. And so this is why you'll find, sometimes you have people who, they reverse things. They reverse their fibroids only to get them again. And the fibroids come back. And then sometimes you'll have people who they don't come back. So again, it's more so about taking a holistic approach to womb wellness and really it's because the thing about is womb wellness is lifestyle wellness. Okay, let's just be 100% honest. Okay, you can't expect to make decisions that are not in alignment with what you want for yourself, and then easily have what it is that you want. And I want to be careful about how I say that, because some people are able to kind of quote unquote get away with more in terms of their external, maybe their physical behaviors, but that doesn't mean that they haven't done the internal work. I think that the internal work is the most important part of womb wellness. But everything in moderation. So I don't believe in having this very rigid, I'm only eating this and I'm only doing that and I don't do that. I think it's important to be disciplined, but I think, even discipline needs its reward, at the end of the day. I think that there should always be a balance in everything, and that, kind of you work hard and you can play hard and you can enjoy, things that you want in moderation, but, you are basically what you do the majority of the time consistently. And so if you're consistently, eating healthy, if you're consistently doing what you need to do, taking care of your mental health, pouring into your self-care, pouring into your personal development, allowing yourself to evolve, allowing yourself to grow, I think that as long as you're doing that most of the time, then that is the experience that you will have. Goddess, can you please post the affirmation if you can? I wasn't able to write it down. Sure. Let's see. So my phone is actually in a holder right now. If someone else could type it, that would be so helpful. And then I can pin it. So the affirmation is, I release the pattern in me that attracted this experience. I create only good in my life. I release the pattern in me that attracted this experience. I create only good in my life. I release the pattern in me that attracted this experience. I create only good in my life. I release the pattern in me that attracted this experience. I create only good in my life. And I think it's important to note, because there's a lot of like law of attraction stuff too. And I would clarify that affirmation just to say, when you say a pattern in me, it doesn't mean that it's my fault. That's not what that means. And I think a lot of times it's difficult to understand that message, because a lot of talk and a lot of, law of attraction people kind of make that they imply that. And so it's not about, the pattern in you that attracted this experience is something that you did, or that you're to blame, or you're at fault for something. Patterns are formed within us based on our experiences. So the traumas that we experience, they create subconscious patterns and subconscious expectations, which is why we will find ourselves experiencing similar things over and over again, even though consciously we're like, okay, I'm not gonna do this again. Like, I know what I need to do this time. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like, that's our conscious self that comes to, really kind of, use that side of us that is here in this present moment. The subconscious part of ourself, or the superconscious, is actually a very feminine energy that just accepts whatever it receives. Okay, things are planted in that energy. And so if we have things throughout our life and traumas that were planted in us from a very young age, or even last week, I mean, I think a lot of times too, people think about trauma in terms of, oh, when it was young, when I was young, or when I was a teenager. And it's like, no, we can experience different relationship traumas, friendship traumas. There's all types of traumas that we are experiencing that create patterns within us subconsciously, to where we begin to subconsciously expect these things. And so this ties into womb wellness, because, we will kind of create a pattern or have a subconscious expectation of not being well, or sometimes not being able to enjoy things because we're sick, because maybe we had a parent who, I don't know, always, there's tons of different kind of scenarios and dynamics. But, maybe if we had a parent, to finish that thought, that, never let us go anywhere because they didn't want us to get sick, or they were overprotective, or again, infinite other different kind of possibilities. But now that we've kind of experienced that over and over again, our response in life subconsciously is to protect ourselves by getting sick. Okay? And so it's important that we may not be able to put those connections together right up front. It may not be something that's really clear and obvious to us. This is where vaginal steaming comes in. This is where you are intentionally kind of becoming the observer of yourself, and becoming the observer of what happens internally inside of you. So what type of things are you saying to yourself? We can get a clue about what our subconscious patterns are by paying attention to our self-talk. If we can observe our self-talk instead of immediately reacting to it, then we're in a more empowered position to actually kind of be able to create experiences that we want and create outcomes that we want, instead of kind of being the victim to experiences that we have. I will absolutely save this live. Yes, God. Yep, I'll be saving this. And I'll be posting it also on YouTube. Thank you so much. I had to rush to find a pen. Yay. Yes, God. So, again, I wanted to just come on for a little bit and just talk about that. Hopefully this was helpful to someone. I will definitely save this live. Thank you everyone for your patience up front while I was getting everything kind of organized. I absolutely do sell steams wholesale. Thank you for mentioning that so that I can kind of just clarify that. I definitely am kind of in a transition period. I'm still working on the vaginal steam certification course so that people can become certified to do this work. Specifically the Yes God wellness work, where we deal with not just the physical, but the energetic and the emotional as well. And you're amazing. Thank you for your generous heart. I love your steams and can't wait until you return to Brooklyn. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So in that transition, we're definitely still distributing retail products, but we will be moving over to more wholesale. And what that means is that obviously the kind of the point of the vaginal steam certification is to do this work as well. So in order to do this work, you need herbs. And not everybody feels like mixing herbs together all the time. So what we will do is the blends that we have already formulated and created that have had a lot of success for people and their wombs. And if you're interested in that, you can check out my highlights on my Instagram page, and there are testimonial after testimonial about wombs being freed from fibroids, being freed from BV, being freed from infertility, hearts being freed from resentment, manifesting dreams, all types of amazing things. Yes, God. So what we're doing now is offering the blends at wholesale. So if you check out the link in my bio, the tap link, you can there's a wholesale inquiry form where you can just kind of go through and enter some information, and then you will be sent our wholesale catalog, which goes over the pricing and kind of the quantities for the herbs. And you can either do one of two things with those. You can receive wholesale Yes God wellness products already packaged up, or you can receive white label products, which would mean that you can basically brand it under whatever business you want to have. And you can kind of make those, instead of creating products, you already have a product line to choose from, and then you can offer those as well. Yes, God. So thank you for asking that question, because I definitely was not even going to remember to mention that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'm really, really excited about that. We've had a few wholesale orders, and it feels really good to be able to be making that level of impact. Like, okay, this is about to go out, this is going to be spread at a community level by people who are already passionate about this work. And let's be real, this work is not for everyone. Okay. It's not everyone is not at this point in their lives where they're ready to start thinking about energetic, emotional roots of things. It's just, everyone's not here. I haven't tried your steams. Are they specific blend to certain issues within the womb? Yes, they are. There's a tool right at the top of the link in my bio on Instagram where you can go ahead and just take a quick quiz, and it'll tell you what blends are recommended for you based on what your steaming intentions are. It'll ask you some questions, give you the recommendation, and then yes, God. So I just want to make sure I get all the comments. Yes. And yes, so everything is kind of linked. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's linked in my YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, it's linked to my Facebook. If you're watching this on Instagram, it's linked to my Instagram. I just want to also mention that I will be down in Atlanta on June 27th of this month at the Sip and Mix, hosted by my the Butter Bar Skincare. I'm really excited to be there. I'm going to have all my products down in Atlanta. So if you're in Atlanta, please come through. I would love to see you. Happy to kind of get out again and be in community with other women. And what else? Yes, God. I've been also talking a lot about femininity on my YouTube channel, so please go and subscribe to Yes God YouTube. There's going to be a lot more content over there as well. I got some exciting projects in the work. I'm so excited to just kind of be at this cornerstone, I think, in my entrepreneurship journey and also in the business, where I really want to empower and enable other people to do this work, and to help heal, to help heal ourselves and to help heal others. So thank you again. My name is Megan, and I am the CEO and founder of Yes God Wellness, and you can check out information on yesgodwellness.com. If you sign up for the 15% off the first order, you'll be on the mailing list, and I send out hopefully inspiring and educational content frequently. And I think that's it. If anyone doesn't have any more questions, let me just check over here on Facebook. You're so welcome. And I really plan on being here every Wednesday at noon. So that is my new commitment. And I really want to make sure that I make myself available, because I know that while we have a huge Yes God family of people who are familiar with the work and with the products, there's new people coming in every day, and we want to make sure that everyone is just aware and knowledgeable about Yes God Wellness's work, about womb health, and about just becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. So I love you all. Thank you so much for taking some time to join me this afternoon. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I hope that you feel healthy. I hope that you make good decisions. And I will talk to you all soon. Yes, God.